thank you to GMIS for organizing this panel and this event. This is my first time to the UAE, so thank you for the warm welcome that you've all extended to me. Just as a real brief introduction to who I am and my role as moderator, I'm with a magazine called EHS Today. This magazine has covered workplace safety since 1938, so a long time. It's fascinating to me how old ideas become new ideas just because times change or initiatives change, or things like, let's say, a global pandemic forces companies to take workplace safety, industrial safety, a lot more seriously than maybe they were in the past. Not that safety hasn't always been a forefront topic for companies and organizations and for solutions providers, but I think the pandemic has kind of reinitiated an emphasis on keeping people safe, not just the people under your own under your own management, but the whole community. And that's kind of what crisis management, emergency management, and we're also going to be touching on fire safety. What these are all reflective of is you have to be able to protect people whether or not you've got the infrastructure in place to do that. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about how do you get better at this. The whole manifesto kind of focuses all of our attention now on technology. But some of these technologies have been around for a good long time. Artificial intelligence has been around since, in some way, shape, or form, since the 1950s, but certainly since the 1990s. We've had AI-based products. But I think, again, as all the technologies have kind of matured and kind of coalesced, especially with the Internet of Things, which is what we're going to be focusing a lot on today. So we're going to kind of try to put it all into context. What's possible right now? What can be possible? What should your organizations or your companies be focusing on? What are some of the solutions and what are some of the innovations that people and companies and organizations have been able to put into place? So we've got a fantastic panel here. I'm going to ask each gentleman to briefly just set the stage for what they focus on in their roles at their organizations or companies, and then we'll get into some questions, and hopefully by the end of this panel discussion you'll get a better idea on what's possible to better manage your organizations. So we'll start with Major Ali.
Thank you very much for that, Dave, and I'd like to also thank GMIS for putting together this amazing, truly amazing conference. It comes at a time where we are at the forefront of technology. It's nice to be involved in a time in your career where we are witnessing a revolutionary change in how operations in the field are conducted and done. So a quick brief about myself. I'm Major Ali Almadfai from Abu Dhabi Civil Defense Authority. I'm currently at the chairman's office, but the bulk of my experience was served in the field at the emergency and public safety sector. I did a stint in chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear response. I did a stint in operations, and now I'm proud to be part of a team that is steering these innovations and to be on the spearhead of this transition.
Arkan?
First of all, thank you very much for this opportunity to be here in this panel. My name is Arkan. I am a mechanical engineer working in NAFFCO as CEO representative. I'm involved in the export and the strategic project as well as some development in the products. Now, I'm working in NAFFCO. I'm very proud that NAFFCO is one of the leaders company in the world in terms of firefighting and fire alarm CCTV system and security. We are the biggest company with the wide products range, starting from a small fire extinguisher, reaching to the very complicated IRFF special vehicle for airports. We are very proud that we are considered now one of the biggest industrial setup in the country, in UAE. We have more than 9 million square feet factories. and more than 17,000 employees working. We are working in more than 120 countries worldwide. All our products carry made in UAE. We are proud that we are a UAE, a national company. And we are pioneer in many fields and products, which part of them we are going to discuss today, which is some products related to the environment and some products related to the technology and smart and safe cities. So this is NAFFCO an example.
Okay, thank you. Richard?
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, Richard from SIBCA, CPO for SIBCA and Omnicon. Been working within the ELV field now for just under 30 years. So as Major Ali says, the sort of innovations that we're seeing, the transformation within the sectors of ELV has changed quicker in the last few years than it has in 2 decades. So it's an exciting time now to be on the verge of IoT platforms and AI platforms with machine learning thrown in the middle, just to try and give us the best possible practices for running buildings. I could give you an overview of SIBCA as well, but I'll cut short so we can get to the questions.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Actually, what we want to do now is look at some of these technologies. So I'll continue with you, Richard, since you kind of set the stage there. So what role is Internet of Technology, IoT sensors, and artificial intelligence, and how do all those technologies play into improving crisis response?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, you could have an hour just discussing this one particular topic, but for us, you have a building, and we'll keep it fire-centric because that's what we're trying to discuss. So when you have a fire system, you have a system that has sensors placed through the building, but it's quite limited because those sensors are wired solutions. So what we try and add to that with IoT sensors is something that enriches the data that you're receiving. So you don't just have a sensor which has a smoke or a heat, you have additional sensors now that can give you particle information that can actually sense what type of smoke it's seeing. Is it Bacour smoke, for example? Is someone burning a cigarette? Is it really going to be a risk to the people that are in a specific room? And to that we can also add environmental sensors, we can add water leak sensors, we can add all sorts of different sensors that do not need to be part of a given solution, the fire alarm solution. And to add to that, within a typical building, if we take the construct of this building here, we have fire, which is one core product. You have building management systems, which is another. You have all of the lighting control, which is another. Before, all of these individual systems had to be controlled completely separately. Now, with the advent of machine learning, artificial intelligence, and IoT, all of those can be visualized and controlled on a single platform. So not only are you having information from each one, you have control across each of those platforms as well. So where you have a fire alarm triggering, that fire alarm through IoT can now talk to your BMS system. It can start triggering lights, it can start triggering evacuation systems, it can start triggering HVAC solutions. That's all making up your IoT system that controls the entire building.
Okay, Arkan, can you add to that? How is IoT helping companies better protect their facilities?
One of the most important points that IoT can also checking and update you always about the readiness of the firefighting system and the other devices, especially the smart devices. And this is very important that you always update it. You know very well what is the status of the system there, so you can feel that you are safe. For example, this will help a lot for saving money. Once, let us say, one message or signal coming that level of the water tank is low, this will help a lot to be sure that the system is ready and also avoiding any problems with the fire pump. So this kind of, let us say, information and updating is very important, that you can feel that your system is always ready. Number two, I feel that with this kind of, let us say, the complication of the equipment and devices available in any buildings, commercial or industries, you need sometimes to be sure about the signals you receive. It is a rare signal or false signal. And this is what IoT can do. Because they are checking and they are keep sending messages to be sure that what signal they got, it is a rare signal. Then to move to the other stage where it is automated response. I mean, you no need to waiting somebody to do the response. The response will come automatically from the system itself, so you can have the action very fast and avoiding the big problems.
So Major Ali, from your perspective, how do you use the Internet of Technologies?
Our colleagues in the panel, they focused on a very important aspect, which is how the IoT can influence and can affect and can enhance operations regarding response to property. At Abu Dhabi Civil Defense Authority, our mission is beautiful in its simplicity, yet very deep and complex, because our mission is the protection of life and property.
Right.
When we come to the aspect of life, it is a very personal topic. We have to utilize these innovations to make sure that our response not only protects life, but also enhances it. I'll give you an example. 1 minute can mean a lifetime. If we are late in 1 minute, or if we can save 1 minute, this 1 minute can translate to an entire lifetime. As of at the moment in our ambulance systems, for example, we utilize the Internet of Things in the ambulance vehicle in a way that pre-hospital care can happen on site. We can triage patients. We can classify what needs to be done where. While the patient is being transferred to the hospital, all the data and all the required information, the critical life safety information that is required, is already on site at the hospital. This saves lots of time. We couldn't have done this before if not for the utilization of these advanced sensors, these advanced Internet of Things, and these technologies. So you can imagine a patient being loaded into the ambulance. While they are on transport to the hospital, the team is already ready. They are aware of what trauma they have received. They are aware of what care they need to get. In ambulatory care, this is known as the golden hour. So every step that we can take using technology as a razor blade that can shave off seconds and minutes of this golden hour can translate into life-changing scenarios.
Yeah, that's a great point, that a minute doesn't seem like that long of a period of time, but as Major Ali was just emphasizing, that minute could be the difference between life and death. It's a very key issue that we are all kind of trying to tackle. Let me shift gears slightly on, we could talk about the technology itself, all afternoon if we wanted to, but there are a lot of challenges facing companies on implementing and building up the infrastructure within their own operations so that these technologies can actually work and communicate. So we'll start with you, Arkan. What are some of the biggest challenges that companies face implementing like an IoT-based fire detection system?
Well, there is a challenge. For example, there is what we call cost impact. I mean, in order to connect it with the IoT system, you need to have multi kind of devices, smart sensors, platforms, receivers. So there is a cost of this item. So you have to have a budget for that. This is number one. Of course, later on, operation-wise, this cost will be nothing because you are saving a lot of due to the avoiding big maintenance and avoiding the accident and the fire, etc. Number two, I think you need a very soft and smart software. Why? Because, for example, if we are talking about IoT in certain area where there's, for example, 100 towers, and in every tower there is different kind of equipment, detectors, brands, technology, etc. So when you need to connect all these towers with one command center, you need to have a software which can working and integrated with all these technology, with all these brands and modules. So this is very important. And we as an NAFFCO, we have the software which can do that, and we have the example for that. Number three, I think, is the availability of the expert, because with these IoT systems, with the control rooms, with everything, you have to have people are ready to do the fast action and repair. For example, if you get a signal that you have a problem with the pump or you have a problem with panel, so you have to have people, they have the experience and they have the knowledge to go there and do the fast action and repair everything, so the IoT system be active.
Richard?
I was going to add two things to that. One, cybersecurity. When we start talking about the world of IoT, one of the biggest concerns that comes to companies when they implement these things is how secure is my system going to be? So we start to put these different solutions in, and as we know from attacks recently, if we have CCTV cameras available with high-powered processors in the cameras, they can be used for attacks as well. So when we're implementing something, we need to make 100% sure that our fire alarm, if it's a wireless one, for example, cannot be infiltrated. The other one, which we'll hand to Major Ali, is if we do have a wireless fire alarm system, what is the trust? So we know we have a fire alarm system in buildings here. We have to by law. And we know it's a wired solution, typically within a commercial building. So we know that the detector is connected by a piece of wire. When we go to more complex IoT solutions, they're typically wireless. So where is the trust to know that that device is online? So we have to select systems that we physically trust. So one of the things which we're doing now is obviously working with the likes of UL to do approvals for IoT specific things, IoT devices, to prove they will not drop offline. And again, working with UL and civil defense to get the right approvals for these wireless systems that then makes the buildings more secure.
Correct, yep. In our field of work, when the bell rings, we respond, regardless of what the technology says. This sometimes comes as a challenge for us because we are responding to lots of scenarios where it is, as you mentioned, a false alarm, or there is a miscommunication between the actual situation and what is getting on the panel and the like. But this does not deter us. When the bell rings, we will still respond. Even if there is a 5%, 1% chance that this is an actual incident, we will not take this. We will not take this risk. It is our duty to always be present, regardless of what the technology says. And this is also there's a simile to it, because what we do at its core is very analog, regardless of all the digital tools that we have. At the end of the day, if a sensor gave a false signal or the like, we will need to still go and we will need to still verify this. Of course, in an ideal situation, you will have 100% accuracy.
Yes.
But the only thing that is guaranteed is that if we do not respond, the results could be devastating and catastrophic. That is why we still resume in our analog duties, even though we have these amazing digital tools to assist us.
Yeah, and that's where we need to change the concept of how these tools work. So when we're working with the laws of NFPA 72 and also the unified code here, we need to try and understand what an alarm is. So as Major Ali says, if an alarm triggers, you have to respond. Now what we can start doing is using IoT to help us understand if that is a false positive, for example. So we can start analyzing the quality of the air that's coming from the smoke to see whether or not it really is a fire, to see the concentration of the smoke particles. So that's where IoT, I think, in the next few years will start to play an enhanced role within the fire security and hopefully help civil defense with predicting whether or not something is a real fire. But again, it's a fire. You have, at the moment, we have to respond. You can't just say, oh, it's okay. You still need to respond. But I think as the technology gets better, we're going to end up with a better result as to what a real fire is, because we will understand the smoke more, we'll understand more how the fire forms within a room, because the IoT systems will get better.
Yeah. Now, maybe just I will give example about the volume of the data civil defense deal with it every minute, not every hour or every day. For example, if you have one tower and this tower has 1,000 devices or 500 devices, so every device sending in every minute 2 signals. First signal to be sure that on, off. Second signal to be sure that live, on live. So if you have 500 devices in this building, you will have 1,000 signal every minute. If you have area where you have 100 building, for example, so they have to deal with 100,000 signal every minute. Yeah. So it's a huge data. And this data, one of the challenges is to have the good infrastructure. Good infrastructure, it means you have the communication systems, or you have the way to transfer this data from the devices to the control room. And there is, of course, there is some challenges and there are some options and solutions which need to develop in the infrastructure.
Okay. I want to shift the gears again a little bit. Let's talk about the training that goes into having your workforce, having your companies, having your organizations able to acquire, to implement, and then to adopt, and then to facilitate the use of IoT sensors and AI and all these great technologies that we're talking about. But how do you actually do that? How does that work in practice rather than just in theory? So, Major Ali, how does it work at your organization?
We train like we fight.
Okay.
And we can establish this through great collaboration between the private and public sector. We have outstanding partners who are leaders in this field, who we utilize for technology adoption. And based on that, I'm very proud to say that Abu Dhabi as a whole is leading and is in the forefront of technology adoption. Any idea that can enhance our operational readiness, we welcome. Any partner that can support our mission, we welcome. And through fostering these collaborations, we are able to enhance our training programs and our response efforts as a result. In our field, readiness is not a question, it's a must. Mm-hmm. And utilizing these programs to enhance our readiness is mandated. And the simulations that we conduct, the training that we do, the collaborations that we foster, all pour into this end goal and end mission. Whether it's on the field with our cadets who are currently in the country and out of the country, or it is through companies who are pioneers and leaders in the field of next generation technologies, Response 2.0. The agility that the leadership at Abu Dhabi Civil Defense Authority has, and the vision that they hope for us to achieve to be the best firefighting force in the world, all supports this grand mission and grand vision.
Let me just follow up on that a little bit. From your perspective, now you've talked about how well equipped civil defense is, but what about companies out there, maybe even the smaller companies, the ones that you are out there to protect? How well do you think that they are at, or how far advanced do you think they are at using some of these technologies? Do you think that they have a little further to go, or how are they going to get to the point where we can say they're safer now?
I mean, it varies, but it's encouraging to see the progress that has been made. It's also encouraging to see that the philosophy of protection has changed.
Yeah.
And this is an ongoing mission that we also have on ourselves. Awareness is a very powerful tool that we are very happy to see that the general public is adopting. They are realizing that all the regulations set by Abu Dhabi Civil Defense is there to protect them and to protect their investment and for the sake of their business continuity. So I'm happy to see that there is a very positive uprise in this technology adoption. There is a very strong will from the companies, very strong will from the business owners and from the building owners as well, to adopt these technologies, because at the end of the day we made it very clear that this is there for their own protection and their own safety and their own business continuity. So it varies from organization to organization, but the upward trend is there, which I'm happy to report.
Oh, that's good to hear. Yeah. Arkan, what about your perspective?
Maybe our scope is a little bit different. We are manufacturer of this kind of devices. You know, the fire alarm, the gas detectors, smoke detectors, etc., the panels itself. So we are focusing more and more to develop the products itself. And we are focusing also to develop the software, which can do the integration between this kind of equipment with the servers, with other technology and other equipment. But as a training, yes, training is very important. I mean, we are in NAFFCO, we have two kind of training courses every year. We have NAFFCO training courses, which are working very close with the civil defenses. And we are working also with them to train the staff of the other industrial and oil and gas authorities. Plus, we are, as a representative to the NFPA, we are the Middle East and North Africa representative. We have the NFPA training courses also yearly with the certain programs, and we are working to train the people and get them the NFPA code, which is very important to develop the safety and security in their authorities.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to add one thing to that. So there is, of the NFPA, yes. So when it comes to the crisis management side, there is actually NFPA 1600, which is specifically for crisis management. And it's sort of like a foundation of how you would do it. The same as when we're dealing with fire alarm systems or doors, for example, or firefighting, there's a specific NFPA code, which is a standardization of what you have to conform to. Now, luckily within the UAE, we have great leaders who can actually come up with a unified code that has all of these NFPAs in one location. It's a 1,000-page document, Major Ali. It's a big document.
Huge.
But it has everything in place that allows you to start training people to a specific educated level. Now, the problems come when you also have to incorporate standardization into that. Because when we start dealing with other aspects of IoT, so within your crisis management, you have to conform to other aspects of your IoT platform. So when you're bringing in building information, there's particular standards on how to get that information in, particular protocols that you're using. When you're dealing with CCTV systems, again, there's particular approvals that you have from those cameras. But when you're dealing with fire, there is no specific protocol for fire systems. Every fire alarm panel is different. Now, a challenge that gives civil defense, like in the Hassan program, for example, in the commercial Hassan program, they can have a building that has 1,000 points in it, 20,000 points in it, 100,000 points in it. It wouldn't make any difference. Now, all they know is there's a fire within that premises. So you imagine Cleveland Clinic, it's a colossal building within Abu Dhabi, one of our flagship hospitals in Abu Dhabi. It has nearly 20,000 points. Now, all we know from that particular building is when it's on fire. Now, when we start standardizing these protocols, we can tell you exactly where that fire is. So when the fire comes to the control room now, you don't just know there's a fire, you know exactly where that fire is, because there's a standardization of protocol that tells you to say that specific point has triggered. So you don't need to then train on how to get to the location. Which entrance do I turn up in? I now know exactly where that point is that's triggered, because I have the exact data I need to get straight to that point of the building as soon as possible. Because as we said, every second counts when you're trying to fight a fire. So when you're dealing with crisis management on buildings of that size, the granular information is absolutely key. So we do need to come up with some more standardization laws on how we deal with fire panels, rather than just the fire and fault stuff that we have at the moment. And I'm saying SIBCA and Omnicom, we're leading the way with that, with our gateways to translate how that fire panel gives us the data.
I'm glad you mentioned the Cleveland Clinic, because I'm actually from Cleveland, Ohio, which it's an interesting perspective to hear about Cleveland Clinic. When he mentioned it, I realized, oh yeah, there's Cleveland Clinic in Abu Dhabi as well. So thank you for the plug for my hometown. We're almost out of time here. I would like to just ask one final question. We kind of touched on it a little bit already, but it was a point that Richard had mentioned to me before we even started our discussion when we were backstage. It's about the idea of upskilling, how you get your people at your organizations ready to adopt the IoT and the AI and all these other great technologies. Do you have to be a trained AI person to be able to use these tools? So, Rich, I'll let you start, and then we'll go through the panel quickly.
Yeah, and again, that all comes down to standardization. There are specific standards like 22320, which is an ISO standard, 45001, which is another standard for health and safety. Then you've got your cybersecurities, your 27001, and of course, production side of things, you've got your 9000 standard as well. So as you're trying to upscale your workforce to understand how these technologies work, you have to have the right training in place. You cannot go willy-nilly into an IoT system and expect it to work first time. You have to understand how the modeling works, understand what you have to do, understand how the security works. So all of these standardizations within ISO are now helping to understand. So we can actually put specific platforms into categories of what they do. And again, UL helps with that as well. So when you have a UL listing for a platform which is from end to end, again, you have to have certain criteria that you have to hit. Now that's taken a bit further. So I mentioned NFPA 1600, which is the crisis side of NFPA. When your building is complete, you can then have your building attested by UL to aspire conditions, same as you're doing LEED or you're doing BEAM or you're doing other particular sort of analysts of a building. So you need to then upscale your workforce to be able to deal with educated understanding of how a building is working. Dharma, for example, in Abu Dhabi, do a very good job of understanding how a building is being built, what windows it's using, how much energy it's using, how effective the HVAC solutions are. And of course, the key to understanding all of that is a good IoT platform. If you don't have that, then you will not be able to get any data at all. But as you're right, you need the staff to be able to interpret the data. If the staff cannot interpret the data when something is failing as a preventative maintenance task, then your building will fail. So there is still a bridge that we have to gap between the system doing what the system should be doing to tell you something is going wrong, but then the human who is using that to physically do something about it.
Arkan, do companies come to you and ask you for specific guidance or consulting expertise with IoT?
Yes, of course. I mean, we are working with many countries to, let us say, develop and establish the IoT systems. Actually, we are very proud that we are partnered with the Dubai Civil Defense in this system, IoT. So, I mean, we have to get, first of all, we need to know about the regulations, which kind of regulations are those available, because this is, when started in any other countries, in UAE we are very, very lucky because all the buildings available in UAE, it has been built with the high level of technology and safe and standards, you know. So the buildings have firefighting, fire alarm systems, CCTV, everything. So we are not starting from zero, starting with a good level of equipment and technology. But in other areas, maybe this is a big challenge. Sometimes you are starting with nothing. So, and infrastructure also is not assist or help, because as you say, you need to transfer huge data. So you have to work in many sectors. You have to start with the buildings to build their fire alarm system, their sensors, their devices. Then you have to move to the control room, then IoT system, then how to find a way to transfer the data. So it's very complicated. It depends on what is available on the ground. And based on that, we have to put the plan. So let us say it is a custom-made business.
Major Ali, I'll let you have the last word on how your organization, the Civil Defense Authority, is using IoT and how you've been able to train the people at the CDA on actually using these technologies.
The way we see it is that if we talk about the artificial intelligence in general and how it can, and its adoption into the Internet of Things, it begins with an idea. That idea then is turned into an algorithm. That algorithm is turned into code, and that code turns into a practical application or the processor that can implement that idea. What we're trying to do with Abu Dhabi Civil Defense Authority, and this is these efforts are recent, is to create a space for innovation where we can take these ideas, because anybody can build a server. Anybody can get these sensors, but it's about how to utilize these ideas in the best way, how to utilize these ideas in a way that can be reflected tangibly in the field, how these ideas can then be translated into our mission, how these ideas can enhance our response. So it's about supporting innovation. It's about supporting these ideas. And then once you have it, you will find somebody who is capable of, through our partners, through the commercial and private sector, who can translate these ideas into tangible, beneficial field operations and response efforts.
All right, fantastic. I would like to have all of you join me in thanking our panel here for our fantastic insights into crisis management and crisis application of technology. We could talk a lot more about it, but I really appreciate your insights, gentlemen. So thank you.